Hello and welcome to the Rask Network. What you're about to hear and see is limited to general financial information only. Please be sure to speak to your financial planner or refer to our financial services guide available at rask.com.au/FSG before acting on the information.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Zara. Zara, how are you?
Good, Jordan. How are you?
Good. We're recording in studio again in Melbourne, in the new space.
Very
exciting, very cool. Today, we're talking the top 5 email marketing tips.
We are, yes.
Something we've spoken about quite a bit, but the things that we really want to touch on are things like open rates, engagement, and all in all, how it can turn into some more sales.
Yeah, and I think every time we do release one of these podcasts really focusing on email marketing, we get a lot of feedback, like people wanting to know more, people want to dive into it a little bit more. I get a lot of strategy calls off the back of it. So I thought it'd be really good for us to go over this in a little bit more depth to give people a little bit more info.
Yeah, 100%. And the main things that we're going to focus on are segmentation, personalization, holiday campaigns, and lead nurturing as well. And we recently did an episode on Black Friday, and we did touch on the email side of things. But like you said, more of a deep dive today and get a bit more granular on what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is essentially just getting started. But we want to go that one step further, not just talk basics, because we've done that before. We want to talk about segmentation and how it is such a powerful tool so we can focus all the attention in the right direction and with the right audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it as well, if you are just getting started with segmentation, then you can kind of start small and then you can kind of build up in complexity as it goes on. So I think start with smaller, more basic types of segmentation in terms of purchase behavior and, buyer behaviors in terms of what they're buying, how frequently they're buying, start with when someone bought, those kinds of things. And then you can start to build out that dynamic personalization like birthdays, like loyalty programs, milestone offers, those kinds of things, depending on how long people have been with you for. So I think if you are just getting started, start basic, start with the foundations. Once you kind of start pulling in some data, that's when you can kind of start to build it out a little bit more.
Yeah, cool. And how does the creative side of things tie into all this?
Yeah. So, depending on if you are really going into that dynamic personalization side of things, you can kind of pull in different products that people have previously bought. And we'll dive into it a little bit further as well, but then also using like predictive AI and analytics that you can actually determine what someone is most likely to buy next. So we'll go into that later. We won't jump ahead too far.
Cool.
But so I think in terms of the creative itself, you can do things like obviously bring in that dynamic product. But also ideally what you want to do with your creative is try to increase the click-through rates. So obviously the open rates is kind of your subject line, what brings people in and creates enough intrigue to initially get someone to open that email and what's essentially how it stands out in the inbox. And then once people are there, you have to have like an engaging piece of content. So creative, copy, an offer, value, those kinds of things that get people to actually click on the email and ideally go and buy something. And that's kind of one of the things that we want to talk about as well is like, how do we increase that click-through rate? And that is kind of, I guess, the whole idea behind segmentation and personalization as well.
Yeah, cool. And can that also lead into improving the open rates?
Absolutely. And I think if you want to think about improving the open rates, and ideally, again, like engagement levels and those kinds of things. But again, the shift, I guess, from like business to entire customer content and really more that one-on-one connection. And so what we mean by that is also like reducing the irrelevance. So if you have purchased a certain product and I'm about to launch a new collection of a different product and I know that it's irrelevant to this person, then essentially reduce the risk of them unsubscribing, right? And so the reason you do that is, or the way that you do that is through these targeted email sequences and targeted campaigns. So you don't really want to bombard everyone with every email. You want to be like, okay, well, 10% of the audience really cares about this and 25% of the audience cares about this. So then you keep that content relevant as much as possible.
And you know how you mentioned there are different percentages of different people liking different things. How are you tracking all of that? How does that work?
Yeah. So when you, again, it kind of depends a little bit on the platform that you use and the functionality of that platform. But most platforms, whether it be MailChimp or Klaviyo or ActiveCampaign, you can kind of tag how people are coming into your business. And then essentially if it's like an e-com business, what they're buying, their frequency of purchase, how much they're spending. So you can kind of start to define, like, are they a VIP? Are they a frequent purchaser? Are they a big spender? What's their engagement level? But then you can also start thinking about like website activity, like blog consumption. How many blogs are they reading? How many articles are they reading? How long are they spending on your website? What pages have they visited? What products have they viewed? And so, you can start to really build out these profiles. And yeah, it really comes down to, I guess, like how those people are coming in and how you're kind of tagging that content. When you're talking about service-based businesses like ActiveCampaign, I know Owen does it through Rask and we're starting to implement it through Inflection, is lead scoring. So understanding based on what actions people have taken on your website or through your content, what quality is that lead coming through? Have they read one article and visited your homepage and looked at your checkout page or whatever? What are all of these things that you would say are really high quality and more likely to help someone convert? And then we can kind of say, okay, well, if they've done X action, they fall into bucket 1. If they've done X action and Y action, they fall into bucket 2. And if they've done all 3, then they fall into bucket 3. And like bucket 3 is our highly converting customers.
Is it possible to have too much personalization?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a little bit where you want to make sure that it's not irrelevant or inaccurate. But sometimes I think like if it's too familiar or too frequent, like it can be too much. So I think you just have to be careful with, again, the value, the cadence, and it's different for every business.
And when things do become too personal or just too frequent, do you find that the unsubscribe rates do get higher and you start to lose customers?
Definitely.
Yeah, okay, cool. I know we've spoken about going too personal, but if we do want to have that personal touch, what are some tips to implement that?
Yeah. And again, I guess starting from simple and then kind of building it up. So some of the more simple options would be birthdays is kind of that starting point. And then you can kind of build into things like customer loyalty offers. So how long someone has been a customer for, if they've been around for a long time and they've purchased multiple amounts of times. But then you can kind of start to build it out again based on like dynamic content, like past purchases, browsing history, geographic location. And so then you can kind of talk about like if someone's based in Queensland versus if someone's based in Victoria, if someone's in Europe versus in Australia, depending on kind of where you're selling your products or your services. You can start to have like seasonal offers and location-based offers. And then I think that the last one or the most complex would be like predictive AI. And so it's essentially using customer data to anticipate what their future needs or behaviors could be. And so a lot of platforms do this. I know Klaviyo does do it, and you can build out automations and flows as a result. But essentially it could be like a replenishment reminder for like a consumable product when they're just before they're likely to run out. So they don't actually run out of it. And then you kind of get in before they have none of their moisturizer left or whatever that kind of looks like. And so it can be really powerful when it's used the right way. Essentially, it kind of, I guess, moves a not subscription product into a subscription-based model.
The AI is just getting better and better.
Yes.
I don't know if I read it somewhere, but is this where it sends certain emails to people at certain times because they think that's when they'll open it?
So you can do that anyway. And it's essentially just like a box that you would tick in your campaign send out or your automation, and it just sends the email when that person's most likely to open it. Is
that where the like you mentioned before, the geographic location, browsing history, is that where that all comes into it?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So that's been around before AI.
So that's been around for a little while. Again, on a lot of most email marketing software like programs will let you do that. But predictive AI is more based on purchase behaviors like website experience. If someone's bought, this product 4 times in the past 6 months, then we can probably assume that they're going to buy it again within the next 6 weeks. So maybe in 4 weeks before they run out, we send them a reminder email and maybe there's a little discount in there if they buy it.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's not actually locking people into a subscription model because subscription models can scare people. So it's not locking them in, but it's essentially, again, I guess, using email automations to build passive revenue for your business.
Yeah, for sure. And it just, I know it's still early stages for AI, but surely it's just going to get better and better.
Absolutely.
Until it does become a subscription model for products.
Absolutely.
I know we spoke about Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Boxing Day, and all these other sales type events. But what are some tips to stand out during these major sales periods?
That's a good question. And I think, again, and we kind of spoke about it in our Black Friday, Cyber Monday podcast, but one of the hardest things about Black Friday, or I guess one of the best things about Black Friday, is that a lot of businesses say that they make 30% of their revenue over this period, which is crazy.
Yep.
And I think last year, $9.8 billion was spent, as in consumers spent $9.8 billion over Black Friday, Cyber Monday last year. And everything is kind of leaning that it's going to be even more money spent during this period. So it's super important to get involved. I think the hardest thing is cutting through the noise. Because so many businesses participate in this now, online advertising, retail space is more expensive. And what that means is essentially there might be 200 spots that can be filled for advertising. Again, these are just numbers, but just to make it easy to kind of understand is like there might be 200 retail spots. In June, maybe 100 businesses, pay to advertise. So on average, they might get shown twice. Once we kind of get closer and closer to that Black Friday period, instead of there being 100 businesses that are bidding for those 200 spaces, there might be 1,000 businesses. So in order for you to show up, you have to pay more money, which means all of your results become more expensive. So your cost per acquisition can really go through the roof. And it's much harder for you to show up as well because there's more competition, more people are fighting over that space. So cutting through the noise is really difficult. And so when we talk about like being prepared early, the benefit of that is that you get in front of people before those platform costs start to go through the roof. Yeah. So you can run email marketing campaigns, lead generation campaigns, really start to build up your email marketing list and build up your warm audiences through meta advertising. So then when it does move into that Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you've already got a huge list of people that you can target that already are familiar with your business. Potentially you've run some early bird campaigns to build up that anticipation, offer exclusive access if people sign up and they buy something, before a certain period of time or a certain date. So I think that that's really important in order to kind of like cut through.
Yep.
A lot of businesses now do advertise. So that Black Friday, Cyber Monday date, a lot of businesses will go live with an offer before that.
Yeah.
Just to try and get in front of competitors.
And it makes sense because I know when I check my emails coming up to it, you're just getting bombarded from all different companies that are essentially selling, well, maybe not the same thing, but very similar things. And one thing that I always like is like the early access stuff where they give you a code and you can essentially jump on and get those prices, the sale prices early. So
yeah, before it gets overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right? And confusing because if you want to buy a new jumper, if you get 20 offers on one day, it's like, what? Too hard.
Yeah.
Too much to choose from. But if you've got 4 offers that happen to pop up in the space of a week, 2 weeks before Black Friday, the chance of conversion is much higher.
Yeah, especially if you're getting an email about the same thing at essentially the same time as well. It's like, it's a bit annoying because we get that at the moment. There's a company that professional services businesses can use to send out emails. And one of them is like when rates are cut or rates rise or rates stay the same. And you get the same email. It's like exactly the same from like 5 different businesses. So it can be a bit frustrating and annoying. And just a bit of input there.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, I think the other thing to consider as well is like, you're seeing those emails 90% of the time you're opening them on your mobile phone, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think core is making them visually appealing, but also making sure that they're optimized for a mobile first experience.
Yeah.
Like 80% of people open emails on their phone now. So if you're optimizing your emails for your desktop, then you've already lost a whole bunch of traffic.
Yeah, for sure. You have to be doing it on both. And what are some tips to stand out in the sea of discounts? Yeah,
that's a good one. I think being competitive is really important. I think understanding what your profit margins are so you know what you should be or what you can afford to be as a discount. Yeah, sorry to jump in, but that's just so important because even if everyone else is doing 20-25% off, you can't just match it if you're going to be running at a loss. So and what I mean by that is you could be making a sale but losing money. Yeah. So it's so important to know your margins. Yeah. So I think it's really important before it comes into these sale periods or any period really, if you're wanting to do a discount, I think it's really important to understand what your profit margins are so you know what you can afford to discount and so whether you can be competitive and who you can be competitive with because that can form your overall marketing strategy. I think also then like creating urgency through like limited time offers. Is there a way that we can kind of build that scarcity throughout the conversation that we're having with customers? And building social proof is really important. So testimonials, showcasing that for me to buy with you, my risk is reduced because X amount of people have purchased from you before. Teaser campaigns. How can you get in front of people sooner? And if you aren't launching it in a specific date, how can we kind of hint that you're giving something away or that you've got a certain offer coming up? Again, like I think gamification is really big as well. And so that's through like spin to win offers. A lot of websites have this now, ways that we can kind of engage people and stand out. Again, some of this is quite common, but I think there's still a lot of businesses that aren't making the most of it.
Yeah, for sure. And with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, they are only for a finite period of time. Is there a way that we can extend these holidays or shopping holidays, whatever we want to call them?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, if you're seeing that they go really well, then you can, and you want to make the most of it, then you can extend it for another week or another couple of days. An extended offer, it's quite common, particularly for e-com, obviously. And then last chance deals as well. So if something's running out, this is your last chance to get this thing. And then I think the other thing you could do is, it might not make sense right now, but if you know that your product runs out after 4 months, do a replenishment reminder.
Yeah.
A win-back email, essentially, or a re-engagement.
Turning those product sales into recurring revenue.
Absolutely.
Now, it's all good during these high periods where everything's go, but over that weird, I call it
Jan, Feb, lull.
Yeah. It's just like not much happening. Are there any tips to keep everyone engaged and making sure that drop off isn't so big? Because I know from experience, seeing businesses that post Christmas, it's a nightmare until like February. And it's a long period of time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that it's really important to kind of preempt this as much as you can. So obviously, October, November, December can be really strong. And across the board, January, February is really slow. But I think how can we start to engage these customers is like really focus on like nurturing those leads through whether it be educational content to really showcase your brand's expertise, build that trust. Could you be providing unique offers as a business? Is your product relevant to back to school, back to work, back to uni? How can you really be, I guess, leveraging that time of year? Maybe it makes sense to run a giveaway. And the benefit of that is that it might not necessarily be pushing sales right now, but you're building up your email marketing database. And if you know that across the board, the conversion rate on your email marketing is really strong, then over time, that is going to convert as well. And you're spending that time, again, depends on a lot of business owners go away.
Yeah.
And they close down, or they don't close down their site, but they close down shipping periods for, a 10-day period from, Boxing Day to, whenever it might be. So again, like understanding what makes sense based on your business, what makes sense based on your shipping calendars and those kinds of things. But I think educational content, giveaways, competitions, promotions, and then understanding how your business can be relevant to certain consumers is really important.
Yeah, cool. And during that period, what kind of content or offers work well for lead nurturing emails?
Inspirational content is really good. So again, I guess going back to like success stories, again, reducing the risk for someone to buy, inspiring, engaging content, entertaining content that helps to build out your brand's personality. I think the other thing, again, maybe going back to that educational content is that it kind of showcases some value. And so you can kind of build out and build up the value and the benefit of your products or your services even more. If people aren't necessarily buying, but they're still reading, then it's a way to kind of start to build that trust and build that credibility and start really nurturing that relationship. And that can be done through, I guess, those 3 sort of core pillars.
Yeah, cool. And just to touch on those pillars, is that
educational, inspirational, and like entertaining?
Yeah, cool. And if I guess it's hard to sort of just come up with some examples of each of those things because it really is dependent on your industry, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, educational content, we spoke to Beth from St. Jack a couple of weeks ago, and maybe educational content for her or for her brand is like more about like how the product works, what that manufacturing process looked like, start to build up the relationship. Inspirational content, she was a makeup artist, maybe it's talking about like things that you can do. And then like entertaining content could just be a fun kind of like trending sort of piece of content.
And how can businesses measure the success of their lead nurturing campaigns?
So some of the standard things would be open rates and click rates.
Yep.
Open rates is obviously your engagement, how much you're standing out in the inbox. Click rates is how engaging your actual email is at connecting with people. And then obviously conversion rates or like lead to customer conversions, I think is a really important one. And also understanding kind of what that lead time frame looks like as well. like that sales cycle length.
Yep.
So once someone enters your email marketing database, if that's what we're talking about, once someone enters that database, is it getting longer or shorter based on this content that you're putting out on a weekly or a fortnightly or a monthly kind of time frame? Is that sales cycle shorter or longer than it was 6 months ago? And then lifetime value as well, because I think that's a really core one. If you're seeing that the lifetime value of customers is increasing, then you are fostering those stronger relationships, which is increasing that lifetime value, which at the end of the day is what we want as well.
Yeah, for sure. Now, looking ahead, I know it's still early, but if we did want to plan for next year, being 2025, what are some planning tips for email marketing campaigns that our listeners can start to put together or plan for?
Yeah, and you've hit the nail on the head there. It is early. And I know when we talk to customers or when we talk to clients, they do say that. It's like, I'm only in September, I'm only in October. I have to think about Black Friday before I can think about January. And I think it's really important to do it all together. So when you are doing, whether it's your marketing calendar or just your content calendar or your sales calendar, it's all one and the same. It should be. But when you are kind of planning out Q4, whack January in there as well, and let's kind of plan it all out, because if you wait until mid-December, you're zonked. Yeah. You're exhausted. You've just made it through Black Friday. Then you've just made it through Christmas. You've got Boxing Day to go. And then maybe you've got a week off. The last thing you kind of want to think about is what's happening in January.
Yep.
But that's when we see a lot of business owners really struggle because they haven't thought about it. And then those dips, those lulls become even bigger and they hurt the business even more. So it's really important to think about it early. Get your ducks in a row. So then when it does come through January, you've got your email marketing campaigns scheduled. You've got your discounts scheduled to switch on. You've got your unique offers ready to go out. And you've got anything that's changing on your website. All you might need to do is like update a few different banners on a couple of days. So I think it's really important to plan it in advance.
Yeah, I agree. And just to really reiterate, I know we've spoken a lot about e-com today, but on that example where there's that big drop off in January, February, it's really important for service-based businesses to have a plan in place to try and combat that. Because from what I've seen, the drop off for service-based businesses is bigger than the e-com side of things as well. Because like you said, people go on holiday and January is essentially a write-off because a lot of businesses are closed. So I think it's super important to come up with a strategy of some sort to try and generate sales during that low time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, a lot of what we've spoken about has been e-com focused, but it's definitely applicable to service-based. It's the overall principle. It's just the execution that's different.
Yeah, exactly. And it just always comes back to having a plan, having some type of strategy. And if it doesn't work, then pivoting and identifying what hasn't worked. So then you can change, because a lot of the times as business owners, we'll try something and it doesn't work. And that's okay. If you can identify that it hasn't worked and then pivot and try something different, then that's how you make progress. So I think that's so important. And just get onto it early because it comes around quick.
It does. It really does, particularly when you're in the middle of it. Yeah. When you're in the middle of Q4, it's pumping, and so it is really important to plan ahead. Yeah,
especially that Christmas rush, the Boxing Day rush, and then there's that weird week between Christmas and New Year's where you don't know what day it is. Yeah. And then it's like, crap, I haven't actually thought of anything for next month when 9 out of 10 businesses are quieter. So
yes, definitely.
Need to get on top of it.
Yep.
Cool. Some rapid fire questions for you, Zara.
Nice.
So what are the biggest email marketing challenges businesses face today?
Cut through.
Yep.
Cutting through the noise. Deliverability rates. I think making sure that they're as healthy as they can. And I think on that, probably having really healthy lists.
Yep.
So making sure that people that aren't engaged aren't on your list, that you're not emailing them, because that hurts your deliverability rates as well. So having like a sunset series set up, which is essentially a breakup flow.
Yep.
If someone hasn't engaged with your product or your emails in 90 or 180 days, depending on what makes sense for your business, then they're automatically being filtered out and unsubscribed. I think obviously engagement is another one as well. So thinking about, essentially there's more and more competition on these platforms because people are more aware of how profitable email marketing is as a channel. And so I think there is a lower engagement because people are kind of getting spammed and getting hammed so much more. So I think, again, going back to that segmentation and tailorization of your email marketing, that'll help to have that cut through and it'll help to increase the engagement.
What role does email marketing play in a company's overall digital marketing strategy?
Everything.
Done. Next.
Seriously, it does. It has a massive impact because I think, again, going back to how profitable the channel can be, whether it be through lead generation or direct sales, it's just a huge opportunity. And I think if you're missing out on it, you're not making the most of that, then you really are missing out. On average, every $1 spent generates $36 in return. So if you're not leveraging that, then, what that isn't doing for your business.
Cool.
Or what that could be doing for your business.
Yeah, for sure. Can you share any final thoughts or key takeaways for businesses looking to improve their email marketing results?
Yeah, there's a couple. I think there's, you can use platforms like Really Good Emails, which is just essentially brands that have created really engaging emails, upload them, you can look at them and you can kind of see how they work. Really Good Emails is what that's called. We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, the second thing is we do free health checks and free audits of your email marketing. So if you want to book a strategy call, the link's in the show notes, and we will review what you're currently doing and we'll give you advice and strategic ways to move forward.
Yeah, beautiful. And on that meeting, what are some of the things that you'd be looking at?
Yeah, so we'd look at, I guess, the way that your email marketing is structured. So do you have automation set up? What are those triggers? What is the cadence that your campaigns are being sent? What are your open rates and your click rates? And then we can review your conversion rates. And then we can understand, the cadence or the frequency that you're sending out those emails. Does it make sense? Should it be more or less? How can we improve the engagement in your emails so you can start making more money from them?
Yeah, cool. So reach out. We'll have a link in the show notes and have your questions pre-prepared so you can fire away and take advantage of that time that you have with Zara. So it's more of a two-way street than just a educational piece, I guess.
Yep, absolutely. Awesome. Well, that was good. I think there's a lot of really good content in there, a lot of really good nuggets for businesses to take away, again, whether you're e-com or service-based. I think personalization, segmentation, nurturing your leads, obviously planning ahead is really important. I think I would encourage anyone that's engaging in email marketing to really just get started on it now.
Awesome. That's been great. Thanks, Zara.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks for watching this video on the Rask Network. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get videos each and every day on business, finance, investing, and so much more.